My favorite movie that I watched in a movie theater this year. I loved it. I've seen it multiple times. It is so immersive. It is so incredible. And I am thrilled today that we have some guests to join us. We're going to save some room for some questions from the audience towards the end of the conversation. So if you have any questions, start thinking about those now. In the meantime, without further ado, let me introduce our guests here from the film Avatar: Fire and Ash, Stephen Ladd. Sigourney Weaver. And Mr. James Cameron.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi. First of all, congratulations on the film. It is in theaters today. You come to the end of a long journey. Jim, you wear many hats on these films. You're a director, a producer, a writer, an editor. When you're on that performance capture stage, which role takes over first, and how does that help shape the way you work with the actors?
I like to think that it's writer-director in that moment, because what I have to offer in terms of helpfulness to you guys is having thought about these characters, for whatever it took to write the script, a year or more. And, but then also as a director, it's like, I just let you guys off your leash, let you go, sometimes a little dangerous, but Stephen, you knew your character so well coming into the sequels, and then it was just a question of a discussion around, all right, how's he dealing with this reincarnation? Does he believe he's the same guy? Stephen actually offered, I don't know if anybody has seen the last film, but where he picks up his own kind of human skull and crushes it. That was Stephen's idea. I think inspired by Hamlet. You've played the Dane many times, right?
Well, I thought it was, a truly existential moment for a character to confront his own self, and it presented an opportunity to, what do you do with yourself? And I think the crushing it kind of was a repudiation of his former self, but also a decision to kind of move on past it. So
Yeah.
that's what that was about. And it's, Jim was saying is he contributes so much as a writer, but he's a writer with tremendous confidence who will allow us to massage or to downright change words that he said if somehow it seems that they're more suited to how a character and what a character might express.
Yeah, and Sig, you had done so much preparation for your 15-year-old, Kiri, that you had a lot of ideas and a lot of, kind of way in which you wanted to express yourself physically and verbally. I'm not precious about the script if people come in with better ideas.
What I think is so extraordinary about working with Jim is he's written the scenes, he knows these characters well, but when you get in the volume, it's almost like he passes the baton to you, and he says, all right, go in there, find what you're going to find. He's really interested in where we go, and quite delighted if we find things that he didn't know were there. We're kind of like prospectors, and it's just one of the most free and encouraging experiences because he's right here. It's like an early theater rehearsal. The director's right there, and the actors are here, and there's nothing else around, and it's the most exciting way to explore part. There's no, I want this result or anything. He really wants to find out what you find.
And it's a very different, if I could just riff on that for a second.
Yeah.
It's a very different kind of work as a director and with the actors when you're doing performance capture. I think it's been sort of maligned and misunderstood, but I would submit that it's the purest form of acting because it's all we're doing. We uncouple all the cinematography and all of the dolly track and the cranes and the sun moving across the sky or the lighting setup and all the coverage, all the reverses, reversing the lighting and all that sort of thing. That all comes later. So it's really just us, working in the volume. And Stephen offered this. What's the quote that you offered about the infinite space?
Oh, well, you know, Hamlet again. He says I could be bounded in a nutshell and count myself king of infinite space. Goes
Right,
on
so
to
the
say, well,
volume-
not that I have bad dreams, but
You drew the connection to the volume.
well, that's what it is. It's like I've been thinking about the volume for a long time and about method acting for a long time, and they seem, on the face of it, kind of incongruous. Not really a marriage, but the truth of the matter is, within that nutshell of the kind of rigorously prescribed discipline of performance capture, which is a technique. Within there, it really is the boundless depths that you can go to, because it actually compels you to imagination, because it's all you got, really. And so if you don't bring that, then you're just going to be kind of in a limbo, it seems to me. But it's.
But don't you find that having the other actors there is more than sufficient? I mean, it seems to me we've never suffered from not being able to get to the kind of peak of the character that you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, of course, like every job, you do a lot of preparation ahead of time, and because we kept being postponed, I feel like I've prepared for about a year. So when I'm led onto the volume, I'm like, it's like Curie just pushes me away, and I'm out there, but the preparation is really, I think, a great pleasure, because we have such confidence in the material and in what you have created. It's just an amazing script to work on.
And some of the preparation was kind of a sense memory set of experiments that we did for ourselves in Hawaii, learning to dive, being in the reefs, going into the rainforest, and so on. And so I think you got scuba certified in
Yes.
Hawaii, didn't you?
Yes,
Yeah.
but not in Hawaii, in Florida.
Oh, that's right.
Not quite as cool.
You did most of the cast did their free diving training on a reef in Hawaii and got scuba certified. So it's when you're going into an empty tank that's just steel walls later, and you have bits of pipe that have been configured to be coral reef, something for you to grab onto, hold onto, look, push away from all that. It's good to have that sense memory of, oh yeah, coral's a bit rough, so I wouldn't grip it really hard. I'd grip it like a pipe. I'd sort of use my fingertips, that sort of thing. So it was everybody just kind of feeling that out and then taking that back into the underwater volume, for example. And in the air volume, because we had obviously two different volumes, in the air volume we did a lot of sense memory work in the rainforest too. Just have people go out and then remember what it's like to climb up a trail, how you grip something, how you grip a limb or a vine, that sort of thing. So we try to give everybody what they need. It's just that the vista isn't there.
Yeah, you could do all this preparation, Sigourney. When it comes to the day, on any given day when you're going to show up and play Curie, how do you find her? How do you access her? Is there something that you did, or a ritual that you did to sort of just, there she is?
Well, yes. Of course, I never knew if it would work, but it kind of always did, which is I just go where people can see me and back somewhere. And then I just stand there and try to almost, body piece by body piece, remember my feeling in my body at that age, which I remember very acutely, which is sort of a strange gift that I'm enjoying years later, because I found it a very difficult time. And I guess it would sort of fill me up with her, and I really do mean, actors always say, how do you play this part? And you say, well, you get out of their way. And so I really had that feeling. It was sort of like, all right, you stay here, and I'm going to go in and tell this story. And I really wasn't sure if it would work. I really didn't know. I didn't want to let James down. But luckily, it did. That's the miracle of acting, right?
Yes.
You know what I love, too, so much is that, Curie, you have such great chemistry with the other Sully family members. And I wonder, is cast chemistry almost more organic and more seamless when in a performance capture environment?
That's an interesting question. I think it also comes from you know, we've been together now quite a few years, and so we are a family. And certainly the kids have each kind of, even me, the kid, have each kind of blossomed in our own ways, but also within this petri dish of this world. But I think it's also Jim. Jim has a family of 5 children and has, you know, spent the last however many years having them slam doors, and I'm just making this up, but you know,
A lot of eye rolling.
yeah, and I hate you, and whatever happens, you know, and so we really feel we have complete permission, kind of, to become whatever.
Yeah. Stephen, I want to give you credit. I watched a video that you made for Avatar. It's on the official YouTube page for Avatar. It's like a 7-minute video on performance capture.
14 minutes.
14 minutes.
Goes by so fast.
But it's just really fantastic. It really opened my eyes and educated me a little bit more on performance capture. And you said some interesting things in there. You mentioned method acting before, and you almost have to live as the character in this environment, in the volume. And I'm curious, what did you work on the most when it came to Quaritch? Was it his tone? Was it his voice? I know it's not his swagger because you come with built-in swagger. But, you know, what did you work on the most when it came to Quaritch?
Well, I think when I would enter the volume, I would immediately kind of go into alpha aggressive state, which is really interesting. I'll tell you why. Because there was another alpha male who was on the set. And that would be Jim Cameron. Or James, as he's called.
We
Everybody,
get it out of our
we're very
system.
formal today. He's calling me Steven, she's calling him James, you know. Yeah. But, and so the whole, for me, it had to do with owning the space. Always owning the space and owning everything, being aware of everything that happened in it, and kind of keeping my eye on pretty much everyone and everything that happened. And I wanted people to know that I had my eye on them, and it worked. There are many other things I do, I think, as well. I'm very particular about the way I present, you know, as Quaritch. And so, and even in the performance capture suit, one of the points I make in the video, of course, is that whether I'm in the original Avatar, I rolled my tunic just like the way I wanted it rolled. And when I wear a performance capture suit, I make sure everything is exactly where I want it to be. I have patches that I wear, and it's important to me to do that because it fills me with the confidence, and in the case of this particular character, the arrogance to make the leap of faith that's necessary to be convincing in the role.
I remember discussing with you how there's a certain amount of kind of theater to the way Quaritch is charismatic with his team. You know, he knows he has to lead through charisma, and he is, you know, he's very severe disciplinarian, but he's also highly charismatic. And so there were a lot of chromatics to what could have otherwise been quite a simple guy. And then when he gets confused around his identity, he gets really interesting. I think.
Yeah, he does, and I don't have a lot of answers for that. I always have more questions, and that's something. What does Quaritch always seek? He seeks clarity. That's what he's always looking. He's looking for the most direct path to whatever the objective might be. You know, but it's interesting because what has the objective always been? Well, it's been Jake Sully. He circled Jake like Jake was a bone and he was a wolf, and if Sully is his raison d'etre, kind of what happens if he actually manages to destroy Jake Sully? What does that mean for Quaritch, you know? So these questions are starting to kind of dawn on him and work their way through his DNA. He's got the juice of Awa flowing through him, which he doesn't understand at all. But finally, when he goes into the ash village, he breathes in the sulfurous atmosphere of conflict, and this is a place where he feels very, very comfortable. So I really, at last, when he walks into that village with his hands up, I think part of him is going, "Yeah, baby, I'm home. I'm home."
Yeah.
He's
It's a
found his
napalm in the
Pandora.
morning kind of moment.
Huh?
not.
It's a napalm in the morning kind of.
There is that to it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you know, Jim, we often talk a lot about the facial capture when it comes to performance capture, but how essential is the physicality of a performance and performance capture, and how do you work with the actors to help them embody these characters inside their own human bodies?
I don't throw shit anymore, but I almost did this morning. I read this review, I can't remember if it's the Washington Post, where they talked about Sigourney voicing Kira. It's like, guys, we're past all that. Come on. This is a full, whole body, every breath, every step, every gesture, performance that plays out over a period of, to make these two films, Way of Water and Fire and Ash, 18 months. I mean, I shot frickin' Titanic in 6 months. We spent 18 months on this stuff. And the beauty of it is we take our time until we get it, not just what I think is right, but where everybody feels it. Like, okay, we got somewhere. We got to a place artistically that we all believe in. You know, when you're on a live action set, you know, the taxi meter is extremely expensive and it's running from the second you walk in. I see a director nodding his head down. Anyway, so you come in highly prepared. You've got your previs, you've got your storyboard. You're going to stand over here, you're going to stand over here. There's not a whole lot of exploration. You may have explored it weeks earlier in rehearsal, and extensive rehearsal, if you have that time. But you're not rehearsing on the day. You're just coming in and you're banging it out. Anything you can grab onto in that brief period of time, you do. Our process is very different in performance capture, and that's why I like it as a writer-director, because once again, I'm passing the baton of these characters, and we're just exploring. So the rehearsal is integrated into every single day of that shoot, because performance capture is much cheaper per production day. So sometimes we just sit there for an hour at the beginning of the day and talk through the scenes, thoughts we've had, so on. Sometimes we just get right into it and we'll stand it up, and sometimes not be precious at all about exactly what's said, but just feel it out, especially with Sam and Zoe and some of their kind of domestic, kind of conflict moments in this film. I'd say just set it aside and see where the argument starts for you, because it doesn't. As a writer, I drop in, but let's see what the on-ramp to that moment was. Maybe it's a long, loud silence. Maybe it's talking about something else that triggers them into that, So, they're both married. They both have children. So they bring a lot of their own lives into that space. And it's very exploratory. It's almost like a new draft of the script. So to me, what's exciting about it for me is that I bifurcate my role as a director into two separate things that are sequential instead of simultaneous. So when I'm on a live action set, and we've done that. We did that on Aliens. We did it on the first Avatar with your Grace Augustine. 50% of my mind is on the performance work, and the other 50% is on the lighting and the key light and the fill light and the dolly track and the techno dolly and all of the various details of the shooting. But what we do in performance capture is we take that. So imagine you've got two processes that are simultaneous. Normally, we pull them apart, and I can focus 100% on the performance work. And then later, after you guys have gone on to some other film or play or whatever it is, I'm now doing all the camera design and all the lighting design and so on, which I also enjoy, right? So it just kind of bifurcates that. But I think that's one of the reasons, if I have to guess, that's one of the reasons why actors tend to really enjoy the performance capture process. But I think broadly in the community and within SAG and the acting community in general, it's not well understood. I can't expect people to like and respect that which they haven't been exposed to. And I think my mistake has been to hide it, to hide the process, so not to sort of dispel the magic of the movie, of the journey of the movie, by seeing people in a capture suit. But I think that was a mistake. I think especially these days with generative AI, audience wants to know that it's real people standing behind this stuff.
I just have never felt, I don't feel that it was a mistake at all. I really appreciated the fact that the original Avatar was saying, let's not peek behind the curtain on this, because what was being sold is this incredibly immersive world, and that's what was important. And I think that, but of course, and it worked spectacularly well, didn't it? And it worked again on Way of Water, but you pay the price, which is to say, there's a certain, as you put it, it's maligned and it's misunderstood, performance capture. And so, you know, the mission for us, one of the reasons we're here tonight, probably, and this is important to us because you are our peers. I don't really care, frankly, if the critics understand it, you know, but I care deeply that my colleagues understand it, you know. And I think that many times actors will dismiss it, perhaps, because they haven't experienced it, because we tend to be cautious or afraid of things we don't know about. So on this particular junket and journey that we've been on, we've made it our business to speak about performance capture, you know, which, by the way, is in no way a denigration of more conventional film acting, which I love with all my heart as well. You know, so, but that's the point to me. I don't think it was a mistake, frankly, myself.
Well, anyway, we're on an evolutionary path here of understanding, right?
Exactly.
So,
And I just want to say,
Yeah, go
as
ahead,
an
sir.
actor, I really hope all of you get the chance to do this. It is not a technical thing. You are not like, oh, it's so technical, it's so different. It really is like an early theater rehearsal. You are almost wearing a black leotard. It's almost like off-Broadway, there's no bathroom. And I just feel like it sets loose something in us, like seeing, Benedict Cumberbatch turn into that dragon. And can you imagine what came out of him? I mean, I just want us all to have that explosion. It's such a gift to us, and you have complete control over it. Of course, it depends on your director. Is he wonderful? But I mean, really, it's the most freeing thing in the world, really.
well, you can transcend your physical instrument. I mean, you can transcend your physicality, your age, your gender, your race. You can do whatever's in your imagination, whatever you believe you can create, you can do. And that I think is the most wonderful thing about it.
And from my perspective, when I watch some of the behind the scenes, I think it's incredible, and it looks so amazing as an actor to be able to be in that environment. But you want to open up some questions?
I'd love to hear what's on
Yeah.
folks' minds.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, right there. You, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Hello. This is not real. Oh my goodness. So there's not nearly enough time to express what this franchise has meant to me since I was in 7th grade and the first movie came out. But thank you for this world that you've created, that we've gotten to be a part of for over a decade, like 15 or something years now.
Mhm.
It was incredibly formative to me and my lifelong love affair with sci-fi and movie magic in general. Stephen, you mentioned how, and we were just talking about how motion capture is one of the purest forms of acting. This is going to sound cliche, but I'm wondering what advice you have for upcoming actors that you don't think we've heard before, because you are all legends in this industry. And I'm sure you get that question all the time, and we ask it all the time, but what do you think we haven't heard before?
Well, understand that our young actors who appear in Avatar, to them, performance capture is acting. It's how they learn to act, you know? Now, they've gone on to do strange things like live action in films as well, you know? But this is where they've learned it. So the first piece of advice is performance capture is another tool in your belt as an actor. And if you get a chance to do it, do it. If you don't get a chance, make a chance to do it. The other thing that I would say is look for work that scares the shit out of you. To me, the biggest benefit I remember, you know, years ago I was given a script and I got to page 46, I went, and I threw it across the room. And the next day, I got a call saying, what did you think of that script? And I said, well, not for me. And they said, well, they want to know how much you want to do it. And I said, well, let me get it, you know. And I went to it and I realized, why did I do that? Why did I throw this script? I was terrified. And right away I understood, well, that's why you got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that picture was Last Exit to Brooklyn, which still terrifies the shit out of me, but I'm very, very glad I did it. So look for the work that scares you. That's where you want to go. And if you're fortunate enough to have colleagues like Sigourney and a director like Jim who support fearlessness, you know, they're there to help you, to push you off the cliff sometimes, you know, then you're going to be very fortunate. But go where you're afraid.
Also, be afraid when you need to be afraid.
Very afraid.
Meaning, really understand the scale of the challenge. You know, I always think that it's super important to just stay humble before the craft. Here, you know, we've all had careers in the 40+ year kind of range, and I feel every day I go in, I'm still learning something, and I love that about it. So I totally 100% support what Steven says. I'm only going to do stuff that I don't know how to do. You know, I'm going to be attracted to something. It should scare you when you don't know how to do it, but it should also excite you that those discoveries along the way of how to do it are what keep you, you know, engaged, especially throughout a long project like Fire and Ash.
I would just say that we should fight very hard to get back live auditions, because you're also auditioning them, and it takes away a power we have, because when you go into a room, I say, they don't know what they're looking for. So just play the hell out of the scene and do what you want and assume you're not going to get it, so that you are fearless. But I think we have to get that back. You know, a lot has gone back after COVID to being in person, and it nullifies our power if we can't walk into a room and look them in the eye and see, you know, because they could be creepy too.
You should be auditioning them at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
Go ahead, right here first.
By giving a lot of freedom to the actors, especially in this movie, do you see the performances are very close to what you imagined originally when you were writing? And do they bring a lot of new things, each actor, to the performances?
It's always a process of discovery. I mean, I'm trying to capture lightning in a bottle, you know, but it's lightning. You've got to understand that it's going to strike in the way that it strikes, you know. And the way that character gets interpreted through Sigourney's mind, heart, voice, body is going to be different than what I wrote, different than what I imagined. But we'll always come to something that's very satisfying, I think, for both of us. And we never move on, at least when we're doing performance capture. Sometimes in live action, you just got to keep moving, you know, and you may feel that you left something behind, but we never leave anything behind. And, you know, Steven, for example, is also a very good screenwriter. And so sometimes I'll get stuck on something and he'll say, well, I could say this, you know, and that sort of thing really works well. So we have a great collaboration. When he was talking about the two alphas on the set, I just want to point out that we would typically start the day at 6 a.m. Muay Thai kickboxing. So we'd get it out of our system before we ever walked on stage. Just punch the fuck out of each other. Everything's fine after that.
I will say, the crew, and what a great crew we've had. They always enjoy it when Jim and I are working on a set, because there's the fur flies. when we had this guy, I just thought of this the other day. I haven't thought of it in 15 years. We were on the set in New Zealand, and there was a scene that ultimately got cut. It was a scene where me and Wayne Fleet come across this thing that they built. A totem that they built. And I looked at Wayne Fleet, and he was kind of freaked by it, and I improvised. I said, "Ooga booga," and Jim said to me, he said, "I don't think it's ooga booga. I think it's booga wooga."
This is such bullshit.
It's not bullshit.
I love doing the booga. I used it. We put it in the scene.
And we had a 10-minute discussion as to whether it was going to be ooga booga or booga wooga. Now, you can afford to do that if you're working in performance capture.
It was live action.
Oh,
We're
it
like,
was.
yeah, sure, that's great.
All right, we have time for one more. Let's go right here. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks. I was just stunned at the end of the movie, just the amount of folks in the credits, and we see this as
The amount of, sorry?
folks in the credits, just the amount of that came together to make this film happen. And I'd be curious, from an acting perspective, as you're kind of navigating through the set, or maybe when you're working with the actors, kind of what you're learning as you're having conversations with these new folks that are kind of entering the space, and how that's influencing the way that you're approaching the work is changing over time. Maybe in terms of how you're merging that between the technical side and the performance, but also the actors. Maybe what y'all are learning from having conversations with these new types of the folks that are coming together to help make these new types of films happen.
So just to amplify that for everybody in the back, I think you're talking about what the new actors coming in who are unfamiliar with the process?
No, established actors, just like the new, animators, or just like the different other types of folks that are helping make the movie
People
happen.
coming in downstream.
How that's influencing like the way that actors are kind of shaping their craft with the new technologies coming through.
Right.
and
So
how-
you mentioned animators in the same breath.
yeah,
And I think it's important to understand that we have some of the best animators in the world, but they mostly focus on the creature animation. So the underwater creatures, the flying creatures, and so on, to give them life, to give them character, like Payat Khan, the Tulkun, and the other Tulkun characters. And we let the actors have absolute sovereignty over their characters. And then people who happen to be animators are not animating as they protect those performances down through what we call the kind of the pipeline, the performance pipeline. So it's about making sure that what we capture, and we get everything down to millimeter accuracy. So even the most interior dialogue is, Sam plays some of his stuff very interior, and it's almost, you can't even define what it is that he's doing, but you always know what he's feeling. And even some of the stuff that Una did was also very interior. I mean, that's true in all your cases, obviously, but we want to make sure that we don't miss anything down through the pipeline. So, in other words, I asked the keyframe animators to stay out of the way, right? And render to them what is theirs, which is the creatures that are keyframe animated, the flying creatures and so on. And I'm very happy, I hope you guys are, with how everybody, the nuance of what they're feeling and doing really comes through. If you could see it side by side, because we shoot reference video, which we use in the cutting process. So we have handheld operators that come in and they just zoom in and they just shoot the faces. They're not trying to do a cinema shot. They're getting a stark record of what the actor did in the moment, and then we cut with that so that we can cut performance, because we got to see what they did, and sometimes for our own amusement, but also to show other people how effective it is, we'll put those images side by side with the final render that's in the film, and it's quite clear that nothing is lost. It's 100% driven by their impulse, their moment. I call it the sacred moment of the creation of the character. In my mind, that's what it means to me. And we spend a lot of time, and a lot of money, and a lot of very smart people, engineers, software people, and so on, have made that what it is. It didn't happen by accident, but it's a place where we put a great deal of emphasis. Because in general, a film like an Avatar movie where you have this kind of waking dream state where the world is kind of hyper real and exists all around you and you feel fully immersed, but it's another planet with really strange things there. The human performance is so critical to ground it, that we were conscious of that in the writing, which is why it's about family dynamics, fathers and sons, grief and loss and healing and all the things that you saw in this film and its complexity. We knew that that's what was necessary to ground it, just pull it down and make it feel very real. Because you don't go on a voyage for 3 hours because of the pretty scenery or because of the cool creature design. You go on that voyage because of those people that you see on the screen in a tight close-up like this of what they're processing, what they're feeling. And hopefully we're able to orchestrate all that, and I try to keep the tech out of your way, you guys. Even down to, we had young kids coming in who'd never acted before. Trinity Bliss, who played Tuke, was 7 when we started the process. The other kids were 12 to 14, something like that. They'd never experienced filmmaking. They just went right into it and just threw themselves into it. So I'm not quite sure what you're saying. Is it that people needed to get used to it, or they had to use special skills to be able to work in that medium? I'm not quite clear. 'Cause
Sorry.
I can only hear about
Yeah.
one out of 2 words of what you're saying.
No, I appreciate you answering that to the extent that you did. I really appreciate that. It's just, each year there's new types of contributors to film sets. Different craftsmen, different types of folks working on different technologies.
Right.
And
right.
as an actor, I feel like, you first learn to find your light. And so, or like how the sound is interacting. So as these new other technologies are coming into the performance
Yeah, you
space-
keep talking about technology, but we get that out of the actor's way.
Okay.
I think, yes, I have to deal with that. I have to go over and talk to all of people who are a lot smarter than me about if there's something wrong with the system or that sort of thing. But typically, I try to keep that out of everybody's way. So it's not really a burden for the actor. If you happen to be technical and curious as an actor, yeah, certainly we can have that conversation. But it's not like you have to modify what you do in any way, really. It's not like sort of like you have to play bigger to whisper but be heard 50 rows back. It's not technical, not technical acting in that way. It's not technical in the sense that you have to know that when you're not in the master, when you're in tighter coverage, you got to settle your body down a little bit. We don't impose any of those rules or restrictions. I would say it's much less technical than live action acting, where you have to know those rules and you have to understand coverage. You have to understand that you need to be there for off camera, for an for an over the shoulder, but you're still going to be saving it for your reverse, that sort of thing. We kind of threw out all those rules. It's kind of a new form of cinema acting. It's not inferior. It's not second tier. I would say it's purer. We've said that, and I could do way more time than we have on why live action is actually more technical and therefore / more artificial, more stylized, more kabuki theater in its way. It's just what we're used to. It's what we grew up with, right? I mean, everybody here has probably acted for film or television, and it's a highly kind of stylized medium. And it's difficult to find truth in the middle of all that. I think, there are little things in performance capture that get in your way. To me, they're less than the things that get in your way in live action shooting. Is live action not better? It's just first. It just beat
It's
us
evolutionary.
beat us to the punch by 130 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's evolutionary in that performance capture arises out of a process that was invented. So it had to happen. Whereas, and it's not the biggest change we've ever had in the acting world, 100+ years ago, something revolutionary happened, which was to say Stanislavski threw a stick of dynamite into the world of acting, and what came out was method acting, and that changed everything forever. And but so it's kind of the difference between sort of a fundamental change and a development, which is to me what performance.
Well, the other revolution was pointing a lens at people. People had been acting for hundreds of years, thousands of years probably, but I bet you if you took those performers at the Globe Theater doing the original Hamlet, first standing it up, and you brought them into our world, they'd feel a lot more creeped out by having a camera and having to do the scene over and over and over for different camera angles than they would slapped in a performance capture suit. They'd be doing the same damn thing they were doing 500 years ago.
Quite a bit louder.
Well, and
I
it's so
just think
powerful.
you don't have to worry about finding your light. You don't have to worry about making sure your voice is heard. You are taken care of in a completely different way. All you have to do is show up here and, be your character, play what you need to play, and all those things are kind of taken care of later. The lights are so bright in the volume, you're like in a lab, so you do, I think, actually,
Supermarket lighting,
Yeah.
I call it.
yeah, And so you have to get used to that, but you do in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, and I think to show you, to end here, to show you the power of this film, you were saying, Sigourney, when we were outside, you've watched this 4 times. You know, and you said you've watched this more times than any other movie you've ever been in. And that, you know, and you knew this thing backwards and forwards, but it was still so powerful for you that you wanted to experience it that many times, and I think that's great. I think that speaks to this film, and I think I speak on behalf of everybody here, just thanking you for dedicating so many years in your lives to giving us this time in our lives forever.
Can I just 30 seconds with everybody?
You can have as much time as you want. As long
Maybe 45. I tend to go over budget and schedule. I just want to challenge everybody to do what Jake challenges Cora should do, which is, you know, to see, to look with better eyes, and to look through. There's a sort of a prejudice or a preconception around performance capture, and I'm challenging you guys to do that because I've got these amazing actors. Multiple Academy Award-winning actors, Academy-nominated actors that are doing some of the best work in their lives, and it's pretty dismissed. Now, you know, I mean, I just think it needs its day in court, if you will, and people don't know what we do, and Gen AI clouds the issue, and we're all concerned about that. And I just challenge you and ask you and plead with you to look with better eyes than we have traditionally up till now.
The film is Avatar: Fire and Ash. In the camera,